this is the market I prefer. This is a professionals market. This isn't a market where you come in and put your toe in the water. Can a buyer still get a great deal? I think so.
Right.
Can they negotiate some concessions to help them with their closing costs? I think so.
Right now is the best time to buy a house.
100%.
Right, best time, because sellers are negotiating, they're doing all of the things, right? And that's going to go away. So Traci, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm so grateful that you could find the time to do that. So there's some things I wanted to talk about today with you, and I think it's important that we could bring this to the table. There's a lot of misconceptions as to what's going on in the market, where we're at with the market. What market are we in? Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? I'm going to wait for the interest rates to come down. I want to buy now. There's so much of it that's going on out there. And when I talk to people, it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. You know, it is all over the place. And I had the privilege of being in one of your meetings earlier in the week, and there was a ton of statistics that you had that compared market year over year over year. And I was pretty blown away with the statistics, number one. Number two, I don't think people really think that they're where they really are. So I think that's historically been true. I think oftentimes in our world, and in the realtor side, the lender side, we look at the data that's provided to us through the MLS. We'll grab some NAR stats, maybe some state, in our case, Texas Realtors. But one of the things that I think that is super important, and having the background that I have, there is an entire inventory that people aren't even aware of, right? Our builder inventory. Right.
Super blessed. I have a client, as you know,
right,
that's in that world still today. So I do get to keep my finger on the pulse of that. So, when we look at, days on market, when we're looking year over year, average, price of homes, all of the stats that I brought that day. Year over year, you're seeing basically the same thing. I mean, it's marginal changes, small marginal change. But I don't think we're considering what's happening in the builder world, right? So when we're looking at days on market, we're looking at months of inventory, which, they say in our world, 6 months of inventory is a neutral market, right? So now we're setting somewhere between 2 and 3 months, depending on which one of the counties you pull. The issue with that is it's only counting what's in the MLS. Right. And so we also know that there's off-market properties. Those aren't included in those stats. There's also the builder inventory, not included in those stats. So when you take all of those things into consideration, I think you can see a pretty clear picture that we probably are more respectively in probably a 4 to 5 month, which I think is the beginning of the capture of a neutral market. So can a buyer still get a great deal? I think so.
Right.
Can they negotiate some concessions to help them with their closing costs? I think so. But is there still, that really wonderful property in a great location where the seller's just taken exquisite care of it, no deferred maintenance, upgraded, updated, beautiful? Are there still going to be multiple offers for that one? I think so. And I think part of the reason for that is because it takes us a while to catch up, right?
Right.
And I know you see this all the time. You have a lot of real estate relationships besides me.
Right.
So I think we see it a lot. The agent goes in and shares the data. This is a different market than a lot of our agents have been in. When you look at the statistics of the number of agents that have had license since 2020, there's a lot of agents out there that have only had their license for 5 years. They've only experienced this type of market for the first time.
Well, the majority of the agents, and I learned this statistic a couple months ago, the majority of the licensed agents have been licensed for 3 years. For 3 years. So, they maybe 4 years now, so if we do that. So when you look at that, we're in 2025. They got into the market in 2021 when things were pretty crazy, right? And everybody was fighting over a deal. And that's the market that they know. And they're comparing that market to where we're at today, where the days on the market and all of that stuff, right? And I can certainly attest to what you're saying, because I do work with agents all over the Metroplex. And I can tell you that probably 80% of all the contracts that are coming across my desk have seller concessions and a negotiated sales price, right?
Agreed.
Then you've got 20% of them, which are in those areas in which you talked about. The property was pristine. It's in an area where hardly ever do houses come on the market, right? All of these things where they're paying full price. They are not getting a home warranty. They're not getting any seller concessions. They're having to pay title, which is very reminiscent to the 2021, right? So it is all over the place, but the majority of what's happening right now is that the market is a negotiated market. It's the market that I would say we're in. We're in a normal market, right?
Neutral market.
I mean, I've been in the business for 30 years. You've been in the business for all collectively the same amount of time. So we know some of these ups and downs that we've had over the last 30 years. And to me, this is much more of a more normal market.
I would agree with that. And so when we did the stats at the office meeting, I was covering 23, 24, 25 year over year. So obviously we're post-COVID
right.
market that was so crazy where, we had interest rates that we've never had in history ever.
Right.
So,
and probably never will again.
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. But whenever you look at it, I mean, we still had several counties that had increased values. They weren't as much as,
right.
Again, going back to the 21, where builders and pre-owns were recognizing double-digit appreciation almost quarterly.
Right.
Like it was crazy. It was ridiculous. And I think that for me, this is the market I prefer. This is a professionals market. This isn't a market where you come in and put your toe in the water.
Right.
And you and I, having done this for 30 years, we understand what it takes to be able to create relationships, nurture those relationships, maintain those relationships, and then show up as a professional and be able to provide somebody with all of the options that they need in order to make a good business decision for their family.
And there's a lot of options out there.
There are.
I mean, when it comes to lending and how you're going to structure things, what your goals are, what your plans are for your family, all of these things are important, and, you deal with the customer base, right? And there's so much that they don't know. You know what I mean? And when they come to me, my first question is, what are your plans? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself? Is this a 5-year home? Is it a forever home? Because based off of that answer is going to change my direction as to what may be best for you,
Exactly.
And those are things that I focus on in the industry. And but I will tell you that one of the things that I am seeing overall, and I've got an opinion about this, is that a lot of deals are hard, right?
They are right now.
They're hard.
They are. Mm-hmm.
A lot of buyers are challenged, whether it be income, whether it be, credit, whatever it is. They're just harder deals. There's more things that we have to overcome on these deals. So with all of the agents, and that's what I see, right? So are you experiencing that with a lot of your agents that they're talking about, like, oh my God, just these deals have become so hard. Every one of them seem to be hard. Or are you getting something else?
So obviously there's always the win, right? And I listen. In our organization, there are some incredibly seasoned, experienced people.
Right.
I mean,
some of the best.
Some of the best.
Right.
Yeah. And even some of those have come to me, not asking for my advice, just asking for an ear, right? Because I think that you have people lacking experience, lacking training, there's lack.
Right.
I think there's just lack. And when you have someone, and I'm sure you can relate to this, when you have someone on the other side of the table, so maybe you have an agent that doesn't communicate really well, or you've asked for some things from the buyer themselves, right? Some documentation that is just time sensitive
Right.
in order to keep deadlines. We have deadlines too. And so if you don't have someone on the other side of the table that's communicating well, who's being a team player, and when I say team player, I'm saying having that excellent level of communication, communicating clearly, right? Getting the answers that are needed in a timely manner to keep the transaction moving so that both clients' goals are met, right? So when you don't have that on the other side of the table, it can be very challenging and difficult. So you're managing the emotions of your client because they have an expectation of you to get these answers for them,
Sure.
right? And so when you don't have someone on the other side of the table that is communicating at the same level or mirroring and matching your professionalism, it can be very challenging. So I think it's multifaceted right now, some of the challenges that we're having. And of course, you and I have talked about this forever. 30 years. That's a long time. That's a long time. Like a long time.
Yeah, especially because we're both only 30.
Right.
Right.
I mean, totally met at birth. Totally met at birth. But with that said, I mean, we have had, I've had to work with other lenders, right? The buyer comes, they're pre-qualified through their bank, or they went online or did whatever they did. And that's hard. You've worked with agents where you didn't get amendments when you needed them. They adjusted closing costs. You've got your 3 days. Like, you totally understand how it can create a very challenging environment. And when you're a seasoned professional, your whole job is to make this a pleasant experience that minimizes stress, that achieves the goals and does it in such a way that they're like, wow, that was really a pleasant experience, right? Like our whole goal is the customer experience.
That is the goal. And I think a lot of people lose track of that goal,
Agreed.
And I'll tell you, as you're talking to me, there's something that, especially this time of year, right? It blows me away when it comes to the communication, when it comes to all of these things. I would imagine, Traci, do you know when you and your family are going on vacation? Do you know those dates? And if you're buying a house, would you pretty much know that it's somewhere in between the time that I do this contract and I'm going to close on that property? Because it blows me away when I've got a contract closing date August 13th, and here we are August 10th. And somebody says, oh, well, we're going to be on vacation that week.
My favorite one is, and it's a cruise. I don't know how the signal's going to be. I don't know if I'll have Wi-Fi. We can't send a notary on the ship, right? Yeah.
Well, all of that. Plus, the problem that comes down with that, on my end, right, is you're locked in.
Right.
And you're locked in for a certain amount of time. And if all of a sudden that date changes, you may not be locked in. And if I have to extend that lock, that could cost you $500, could cost you $1,000, or if it happens arbitrarily, you may lose that lock altogether. You know what I mean? Right. So there's a lot of repercussions, not to mention on the homeowner's insurance side nowadays, that if you change that date, that effective date, they have to reopen that policy. And when they reopen that policy, your policy may go up.
That's the truth.
And there's a lot of things.
And you sent an email out this morning. I want to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I'm blown away because insurance is it's a real problem. It's not only a problem that we're dealing with at our level. It's a problem that's being looked at legislatively in our state.
Right.
Trying to create some type of way to create some affordability. Because our rates are going up in insurance and our benefits are going down, right?
Way down.
Right. And so you sent the email this morning, and I always appreciate your communications, talking about the requirement now of the lenders.
Right. So what's happening in the insurance world is, here in Texas, is what they're doing is they are putting a stipulation that once your roof becomes X amount of years, some of them are saying 5 years, some are saying 8, some are saying 10, right? That once it hits that age, that you will no longer have a full replacement cost, right? It goes to one of two things, is actual cash value of whatever that roof is worth, or a prorated value, which could be like after year number 8, we're going to pay 95% replacement or whatever. But the mere verbiage alone on a policy that says anything other than full replacement cost, lenders are not going to do it. They're not accepting it. Not closing.
Wow.
Period. End of story. Bomb. Done.
So you have to know immediately. As soon as you sent that to me, I'm like, I immediately am sending it off to people down in Austin.
Yeah.
Like, how do we address this? Where are we going to stay on the front end of this? Obviously, I'm a diehard tree packer.
Right.
So, because it affects home ownership, right? And we've discussed this before. I mean, nobody should not own a home. All of the benefits, the legacy wealth that it creates, right? How do you, and maybe for some it's easy, but I've looked at what the liquidity is year over year for people who own a home versus savings accounts year over year for people who don't own homes. And you can see that they begin to have this increased liquidity.
Right.
And so to have something like this stand in the way of them getting a loan, like that's something that really needs focus, that we've all got to really have a voice in that. So I'm definitely,
well, even with that being said, of it standing in the way, think about the other alternative to that they may have to go find a policy that's 3 or 4 times the amount just to get the coverage that they need, right? So how does that affect everything? So let me just give you a little bit of a breakdown on that. Number one, they may not qualify, okay? Number two, they may not want to buy the house anymore because of what that cost is. And number three, that insurance person probably knows that once they close, they're going to cancel that policy and go get a different policy. So that insurance person is going to be more apprehensive to not just go ahead and write these policies knowing that they're going to be back charged commissions. Right. I mean, it is a totally flow right downhill, right into the toilet bowl situation.
Well, and my thought to that is, oftentimes you're pretty far into the transaction before you start pricing insurance.
Yeah, not anymore. For the last, I'm going to say probably 9 months, it's the very first thing I have them do. Yeah. Which
is great.
Yeah.
Not every lender does that,
right.
And obviously from the real estate side, we're encouraging them, but you're in that communication in the financial lane with them while we're trying to work on logistics of getting repairs negotiated because we just had inspections. So I love that you do that. And reason number 5,000, right? That you've been my preferred lender for 25 years and friend. Because you do give great advice. And I think you treat all your clients like friends. I watch how you completely sit down and take them through all of it. Like they have a great education during the process if they're a first-time home buyer. If they're moving up or moving up and up, I think you do a great job at setting down and creating financial strategies with them. I just think you treat all your clients like you would expect somebody to treat your family.
I would hope that they do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is what I want. And I'm trying to create a good experience, right? And a future referral for us, right? I'm trying to make you, their agent, look like a rock star and for referring me, right?
Sure.
And create that experience so when they do buy their next house or have an opportunity to give our name out, that they do, right? And I think a lot of people lose track of that. And it's so funny. The other day, one of the agents that you have underneath you, he's a top agent, and he referred somebody over to me. And I did the loan application in person, which is almost unheard of nowadays, right? And I was talking to the wife, and she was like, well, how am I going to know when to do this? How am I going to? And she was very defensive. She had a very bad experience and ended up not buying a previous home, her and a husband. And they've actually been living in a hotel for the last 9 months because of this. And she was asking me like, well, how am I even going to know to do this? When am I going to do this? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, you pick up the phone and you call me. If you have, she goes, yeah, but we will have already closed. And I said, you pick up the phone and you call me.
Right.
I said, that's what you do. I said, I'm your guy for now and forever. Right. You have a question, you have a concern, you have a problem. I may or may not be able to help you right then and there, but I can at least guide you to get you to where you need to be. And she almost started to cry. She goes, I have never, ever had anything like this before. Ever had anything like this before. And it made me feel good. And her total demeanor from the beginning was very standoffish and very defensive. And all of a sudden you just saw her completely relax, started telling me stories about her life and her dogs, and we became friends.
That's awesome.
I'm
not surprised.
Right.
Not surprised.
Right.
Not surprised at all. Well, I'm glad to hear that she's being serviced by one of our agents because I really do believe
One of your best.
one of my best. Yeah. I have a lot of bests, but
Yes.
one of my best. So I am certain it's an amazing experience because we do work really hard and we bring a lot to the table. Our office meetings are like 2.5 hours long.
Right.
I have them so jam-packed full of information, to keep everybody relevant and on top. And so I'm really glad to hear that because it really does break my heart. People should have experiences when they're buying a home for themselves, for their kids. Maybe they're buying one to bring one of their elderly parents closer to them in proximity. You want to hear that was a great experience. It breaks my heart when I hear that people have just not taken care of them and done their job.
It breaks my heart too. It really does when I hear these and when people have bad experiences and they share them with me. And for a little bit of that conversation, I'm guilty, right? I'm held guilty for the service of others.
True.
You have
to overcome that.
Right. It takes me a little bit to overcome that. You
Yeah.
know, there was something that you presented. You talked about generational stuff. And didn't Texas just pass something about the HOAs if you wanted to build something or put something in auxiliary housing?
Auxiliary, yeah. Yes.
Dwelling unit or something like
yes,
that?
ADU. Yes. So the Texas, it's been through Senate and House. A lot of the cities won't let you do it.
Right.
And I get it. So, people would have a house, they would build a secondary structure in the back, and they turn it into an income-producing property. So you've got the cities with their planning and zoning that creates land control to really kind of protect everybody, protect their values. So it's become problematic because our boomer generation, when we look at affordability, when we look what it costs, for assisted living or even communal living, which has become a big thing, right? It's still very expensive. And the reality is that most of them do better to age in place with their family. It's just statistically the truth for them. And so the Texas legislation that was brought down, it makes it where the city can't do that. Now, it hasn't played completely out in the cities yet. And I don't believe it's going to be in effect till Jan 1 anyway. But this is what's coming down. And I think it's amazing because those are the type of land controls that affected me personally. Mm-hmm. So yes, I'm a real estate broker, and yes, you're a mortgage broker, but we're also homeowners, right? We're homeowners that want to be able to use and enjoy our properties. We're people who have parents to take care of, and we want to have alternatives and for someone to tell us about how we can use our land, especially as it pertains to how you want to address and take care of your family.
Especially with the amount of taxes they're charging us.
Hello.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of taxes, also, in addition, they had passed the 100,000 homestead exemption. That went up to 140,000. So that's going to help a little bit.
Right.
Everything helps. But, bringing that up by $40,000, that's a 40%. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are so many things that we could talk about. One of the things that I wanted to address more than, anything is, the crystal ball, right? Mm-hmm. What does everybody think's going to happen?
Yeah.
I know I have my opinion of a couple of things that's going to happen, but I think it's all going to start to happen pretty quickly. What's your opinion? And then I'll share you with mine. And
so let's do like the fantasy football thing, right? We're being recorded, so let's do our predictions,
okay.
And let's come back around a little later.
Well, I've got two predictions, so I think either way I'm going to be right. The third one would be wrong, but yes. So
let's have some fun with this one. All right. So, what do I think is going to happen? Well, we know there's a lot of moving parts, right? This is kind of where I think it's going to go. So, I feel like right now, the builders are doing their price reductions, right? So I feel like there's going to be a dial back.
Right. Now, I believe that they are hurting the existing market. In my opinion,
they are right now.
Focus on it, but I believe that they are hurting that. But anyway, go ahead.
So I feel like what's going to happen is that the builders are going to dial back. And then maybe around January-ish, I think we're going to probably stay pretty much put where we are. We'll be super blessed if that breaks out before January, but I think it's going to be after January, and then I think we're going to see a Fed reduction in interest rate. And the problem is going to be is that builders are going to have scaled back because they usually start planning their spring inventory back here in Q4, sometimes in the last part of Q3. So I really think the pre-owned market is going to be incredibly hot. Say somewhere in the ballpark of the end of February, first part of March. I'm being real specific because this is our fantasy football, right? So this is our fantasy housing prediction. So I really do. I think that's what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a dial back on the builders. I think that's going to then create demand on the pre-owned market. I think we're going to continue to see a lot of pressure from WO to try to get the feds to make the move. But I think it's going to take a minute. And so I really feel like probably after the first year, it would be great to see it before then.
Right.
But
I think it's going to happen before then.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, I hope you're right.
There's two things that are likely to happen. And number one is I just want to preface that right now is the best time to buy a house.
100%.
Right? Best time, because sellers are negotiating, they're doing all of the things, right? And that's going to go away. Well,
it'll be gone.
Right. So right now is the best time to buy the house. Number one, these rates come down, which I believe they're going to come down because I do believe that Powell is going to step down. And when he does, I believe the administration is going to appoint somebody because they are pushing very, very hard for housing affordability. And it's not affordable right now for most people. So they're pushing for these rates to come down. So whoever takes Powell's spot is probably going to aggressively start cutting rates. When that happens, one of two things are going to happen. Number one, we're going to be back to 21, and it's going to be a feeding frenzy. But for us, it's going to be a great market, right? For buyers, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to secure a home. The other side of that prediction is this. People that are sitting at 3%, 3.5% interest rate, there's been a lot of those people that have been wanting to sell their home, but they're not going to sell their home and buy a house at 7%. So they're sitting there. But everybody knows they're not going to go back down to 3%. So everybody else has a tolerance already made up in their mind. Great. What is that tolerance? Is it 4? Is it 4.5? Is it 5? And when that rate hits 5% or 4.5, then these people that are sitting at 3 are going to say, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready to sell. And I'm ready because now 4.5% is acceptable to them. It's just that 7 was not. So at 4.5%, the inventory increases immensely by the people that have been sitting there for a long time, right? And so now what happens then, right? Do prices tend to come down a little bit because there's more inventory? Does it remain to be a feeding frenzy? What does it do? That's the unknown. But I think that either side of that coin, the industry is going to take off.
I agree that I think that their ability to leverage equity now, like they did in 21, is not there.
Right.
I think that ship sailed. And so, prayerfully, the sellers don't get in that mindset, oh, now I'm going to get 100,000 or 50,000 over list, because I don't believe that equity leverage is there to do that for most people.
And it won't be if more inventory comes out because people are getting rid of the 3%. Looking to buy, they've got to sell their house. With that more inventory, they're not going to have that leverage.
Right. Agreed.
In my opinion, they will not have that.
So I feel a bet coming on because we are friends. So I'm saying January.
I'm betting fourth quarter.
And you're betting fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Okay, but we got to have a number. I'm saying, I'm going to do a range, 5 to 5.5% in January. What do you think for your fourth quarter?
I think it's going to hit that in the fourth quarter.
Okay, so now with any good bet, there has to be something that the loser has to do. So I don't know. Do I scrub your floors? You scrub mine? Like what are we going to do here?
I'm pretty sure a nice, delicious steak and a cold martini sounds good to me.
All right, done. That seems like easier work.
Okay, all right.
He's got a bigger house than I do. I would really have to. So I really would need for me to win.
All right. It's a bet.
It's a bet. So we'll have to revisit this in fourth quarter and see where we're at, and maybe do a video of a steak reveal.
Yes.
See who's buying on the check. So
awesome.
Well, Eddy, thanks for having me. we have these conversations a lot.
All the time.
And so it's really nice to come and just talk it through. I mean, it's our passion. We both love it. We love what we do. We love who we do it with. And so it's really nice to be able to sit down and have a conversation.
Very much enjoyed it. I wish that the general public would listen to us more, because we truly do want to guide them properly, right?
100%.
But unfortunately, they all have an Uncle Jim or an Uncle Bob that sold a house in their life and, you know, have better advice than we do. So.
Oh, totally agree. And speaking of advice, I want to close with this. You know, people ask, when should you buy? And I say, I would advise my own family right now to buy. And we literally, just a couple of weeks ago, closed my family, their first home.
Yes.
You did the loan.
Yes.
We were the realtor. So,
yes.
You know, I wouldn't advise anyone else anything that I wouldn't advise.
Yes. Glorious day for them.
That was fantastic.
Glorious day.
Fantastic. So, my grandson loves it.
Beautiful.
So thank you for what you did for them.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for joining me today. If you guys like what you heard, please subscribe, like, all of the good things, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.